Hello, and this is going to be the first episode of the Talking Swords show. It is going to be a Sabres based YouTube channel that I'm starting, and it's my hope that it's going to be one of the. I really haven't noticed many Sabres, like a lot of Sabres content from original creators on YouTube, so I was hoping to make a footprint there and have a show. Now, first and foremost, it's going to be very bare bones. It's really just going to be me talking into a camera, and it's going to be just a stream of consciousness. So no cuts, no editing, nothing like that. And there's two reasons for that. First reason is I have no idea how to do any of that stuff, and possibly one day I could learn how to, but currently I don't know how to, so I won't be doing that. Secondly, I don't have a lot of time to do that, so really I'm going to focus all my free time in honing the best takes possible to put out here, and rather than spending time cutting music into this or cutting different takes or anything like that, it's just going to be really based on opinion, and I really want a very substance show. That's really the goal here. So also, if this does in fact take off, my goal is to make like a video like this where I talk about a certain topic or a couple topics that are going on. And then from there, I would make an accompanying video maybe a couple days later or a week later, and just answering some of the feedback I get from people who watch this. So if you agree with me or disagree with me or just simply have a question, in the next video I will I'll answer your questions, or talk about maybe what your opinion is on it, so we can have kind of a back and forth between viewership and myself. So this episode is going to be based on the expansion draft because it's the next big thing that's going to be happening here for the Buffalo Sabres. So we got through the draft lottery. We found out that we didn't have any luck again this year, so we're going to be picking 8th. And so the next step would be getting ready for the expansion draft. Now, those of you who don't know anything about the expansion draft, I will tell you a little bit about it. Now, Vegas is going to be the new team that's going to be entering the NHL. So they have to build a roster. They're essentially building from the ground up. They don't have anybody. In fact, they might have two players. I believe they signed somebody from the KHL, and then they signed somebody out of the CHL. So they need to build a team from the ground up, and this is how they're going to do it. Now, there's certain rules that are in place for the expansion draft. Now, the teams, each NHL team right now, all 30 of them, are now going to submit a list of players that they want to protect so Vegas cannot take them. So there's two different ways a team can go. They can either go 8 skaters and 1 goaltender, or 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goaltender. So it kind of is going to push a lot of defensemen into the pool in which Vegas can choose from. So they're going to have a better defense core than maybe some actual established NHL teams. And I think this is going to help Vegas because developing your own defense once you draft them takes a lot longer than developing a forward. So in theory, this would make them competitive sooner. So you have to do that. Vegas has to pick 1 player from each NHL team. So they cannot just simply poach a team and take all their players that are available. They have to pick 1 player from each team. So as soon as a player is taken from the Buffalo Sabres, they cannot take another one. Okay. Also, there is also exempt players. Now, if you have 2 years of NHL experience, or pro experience, I should say, because I believe it deals with the NHL as well as the AHL. If you have 2 years or less of accrued service, you are automatically protected. You are not part of the 7 forwards, 3 defense, 1 goalie, or 8 skaters, 1 goalie. You're not a part of that. Vegas cannot take you. This benefits the Sabres greatly. So Sam and Jack and Baptiste and Bailey and Nylander and Fasching, they're automatically protected. So that's really good. This is there was like good timing between when they did this draft and our rebuild. So that's really benefiting the Sabres greatly with this. Also, once the team is put together, Vegas has to pick a minimum of 14 forwards, 9 defensemen, and 3 goalies. So they will have 30 players, but they have to have a minimum of those players in those positions. They simply can't take, 30 defensemen, because that's where the great value is, and then trade those players for forwards. I mean, there could be some wheeling and dealing after the draft, and that might actually happen, but this is the basic line. This is the line that they have to have. They have to have 14 forwards, 9 defensemen, and 3 goalies. After that, then they can take whatever they want, but that's the minimum for those positions. Also, there has to be a threshold of cap money that needs to be spent. So the floor of the cap is $43.8 million. That is what they have to spend to. And then the max would be $73 million. So odds are they won't get up that high, but you simply can't ice a team has $20 million in cap, and then for the next season be able to spend all willy-nilly. You can't do that. There is a limit to what you have to do. So now I'm going to talk about the Sabres strategy for the expansion draft. Who should we protect? So the Sabres are going, in my opinion, this is what I would do if I was GM. They would go seven forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goaltender. So the 7 forwards that I would protect for the Buffalo Sabres are Ryan O'Reilly, Kyle Oposo, Evander Kane, William Carrier, Zemgus Girgensons, Johan Larsson, and Marcus Foligno. And then the defensemen I would protect, Rasmus Ristolainen, Jake McCabe, Justin Falk. And then the goaltender I would protect is Robin Lehner. Now, some of you are probably going to be like, well, some of these names on here, I would love to get rid of Girgensons. I don't think he's good. Justin Falk, that guy's just a jobber in the league. Like, he's nothing. So why would I protect him? But there's reasons why I would do this. The goal of the expansion draft, if we do it successfully, would be that Vegas takes a bad contract for us. So in protecting those players that I listed, we are now exposing Matt Molson. We're exposing Ennis, Josh Georges, and Zach Bogosian. So in doing so, you have bad contracts that might be able to come off the books. Tyler Ennis has a contract with a cap hit of 4.6. You have Bogosian with a cap hit of 5.1, Georges 3.9, and Molson of $5 million. So if we can get one of those gone, that's all to the good. So that's what my hope is with this expansion draft. So also, they talked about trades leading up to the expansion draft and how that's going to affect already established NHL teams. The Buffalo Sabres obviously have a need at defense. Are they going to be able to take a player, make a trade with a team who has some sort of crunch in terms of the limits of 8 skaters, or the 8 skater option, or the 7 forwards 3D option? Like, is someone going to be in trouble? And a lot of people are talking about the Anaheim Ducks, and for good reason, I suppose, because of the fact that they have a lot of defense. With Sammy Vatanen, Hampus Lindholm, they have Cam Fowler. Then they have all the young guys. They have Montour, and they have Shea Theodore, and they also have, I believe his name is Larson, and he's a prospect that is still playing in Sweden, but someone can correct me on that. So a lot of people are talking about maybe the Sabres could make a trade with Anaheim. And in all honesty, I don't think that this makes a lot of sense from Anaheim's perspective. All Anaheim simply has to do is buy out Kevin Bieksa. Now, if they buy out Kevin Bieksa, they will then be able to go the 7 forwards, 3 defensemen route, thus saving Jacob Silverberg, which is really what they want to do. Now, this is going to put Josh Manson on the chopping block, which could possibly be taken from Vegas. But I think this is a trade-off that the Ducks would be fine doing. So only having to get rid of Bieksa, which, I mean, he's a depreciating player, let's face it. I think that is what they're going to do. So they will not trade any of their young D. They will not trade with the Sabres. So if you hear people talking about that, you can bring up that point, the Bieksa point. So let's take them out of the equation. Another team that everyone is talking about is Nashville, because they have a glut of defensemen. It's amazing how they're able to just churn them out, and it's like a factory. So you have Matthias Ekholm, you have Roman Josi, you have PK Subban, and Ryan Ellis. And I think what Nashville is going to do is they're going to go the 8 skater route. They're going to protect those 4 defensemen, and then they are going to just expose maybe Colin Wilson or Yarncrook, and just be, and that's going to be their trade-off. So I don't think that they're going to trade Ryan Ellis to us. And although that sounds great, that's simply not going to happen. They're not going to trade us Ekholm either. So let's take them out of the equation. The other team, well, there's 2 other teams I want to talk about that I think actually might want to trade with the Sabres, or it seems a lot more plausible. And those teams are the Minnesota Wild and the New York Islanders. Now, both of those teams cannot go the 8 skater route because they have forwards that they would like to protect too. So this is the unfortunate thing of having, I guess in Minnesota's case, a talented roster and whatever you want to think about the Islanders. But I think that Minnesota may be inclined to trade Jonas Brodin or Matt Dumba, depending. Now, I think that they're going to rather trade Brodin instead of Dumba because Dumba has offensive upside. Now, if in leading up to the expansion draft, if Minnesota gets a trade offer that really knocks their socks off for Matt Dumba, I think they'll be fine with it, but I think Brodin is more likely. So that is someone who the Sabres may actually target. Now, if you want to talk about the Islanders, the player that the Sabres may target is Calvin DeHaan. Now, the Islanders' defensive situation is they have Johnny Boychuk, Nick Leddy, Travis Hamonic, then you have Calvin DeHaan, and then they have Ryan Poulat. So it's really, they have a lot of defensemen that they have too many defensemen that they simply can't protect them all. Calvin DeHaan has very, not very good, but pretty good advanced statistics, and he is young enough that the Sabres may be inclined to trade for him. And the interesting one is Ryan Poulat, who I am kind of more intrigued by because he's a former first-round pick. I think he would be cheaper to acquire in a trade, and he has offensive upside. He has a gigantic shot, and I think would be great on the power play, maybe somebody that you can slip on to the second unit, and he has had pretty good production in terms of AHL. I don't know what has happened on the island with him. Well, they're not on the island anymore, but with the Islanders with him, and why he hasn't made it to the big club permanently. But the same thing happened with Nino Niederreiter. For some reason, they kept yo-yoing him up and down, and then they traded him for Cal Clutterbuck, and I think they're probably kicking themselves for that. So that's the end of this video. I hope that some of you will watch this and want to ask some questions so I can make the accompanying video to answer those so we can have some sort of interaction. So I appreciate you watching this. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, it is at Matt Kopnak. That is MATTKOPNAK. Okay, thank you so much. And hopefully we do this again.